Hi, welcome back to the channel. In one of the earlier videos, I explained the technique that I use to achieve a realistic pale skin color. But I thought I had glossed over washes and glazes to help achieve that effect. So this time we're going to delve a little bit deeper into washes and glazes, and we're going to be using this bust here, a quarter scale bust of Darren McGavin, as Carl Kolchak.
Kolchak, you are on it.
A two-day-old, third-rate murder.
You are on it.
What about them?
They have other assignments.
Kolchak, the Night Stalker was a TV movie that was eventually turned into a short-lived TV series, with Darren McGavin playing the intrepid reporter investigating all things paranormal.
Not a footprint inside.
In the pilot movie, he tracks down a vampire in Las Vegas. The bust I'm painting is based on the climax of that TV movie, where Kolchak tracks down the vampire to his lair, equipped with all the tools you would need to fight a vampire. As I explained in the earlier video, when it comes to light-skinned characters, I like to prime in a rust color. It helps achieve shadow without too much work. On this character, I then sprayed a pale flesh. I spattered in a flesh wash because Darren McGavin had quite a few freckles, and the character obviously has those freckles. So speckling the flesh wash and then misting with the light pale flesh again, put those freckles just under the skin. As shown in the previous video, I also gave this a wash of blue, yellow, and red, but I left the red a little bit more intense on the character because if you take a look at any reference photos of Darren McGavin, you'll see that he does have a reddish tint to his skin. So leaving the red wash on the figure helps achieve the realism that you may be looking for in painting this figure. As well, I like to use a wet palette when I'm painting skin. I just find that the colors blend so much easier on the wet palette. And the colors that I use include the pale flesh, a transparent magenta, a transparent orange, a flesh wash, a scar red, which is really just a very pale blood red color, and white. Now, in this case, I've chosen a very vibrant white because Darren McGavin's skin was paler in places than you would find on some other individuals. So when I lighten using the white, when I lighten the flesh wash, it's going to be a little paler. Some people have asked me what my preferred brand of paint is, and I really don't have a preferred brand of paint. It's the colors that matter and the intensity of the colors. So this one, for instance, isn't made anymore. Magenta is excellent for achieving a realistic skin color on pale-skinned individuals. If you don't have transparent magenta, magenta and any thinner will help you achieve a transparent color. Same goes with the transparent orange. You can use an orange color and thin it until you have a wash consistency. That will help you create your own transparent colors. So now it's time to create our flesh color. I'll begin by using my pale flesh. I'm just going to put it here on the wet palette. A few drops on the thin paintbrush. I'm going to add a little bit of magenta, give it a red hue. I'm going to add now the orange, and that will dull it down, give it a bit of a brownish hue. It'll really turn brown when I add the flesh wash. So now we've got more of a tanned skin, pale tanned skin. And when I add the scar red, now we've got a skin color, and light skin color, and I'm going to add white to make it even paler. This makes it very pink, so I'm going to add a little bit more of the flesh and a little bit more of the flesh wash, maybe a touch more of the red. And again, this is the advantage of the wet palette. You can mix right here on the palette. You can achieve the colors you want very easily, and you can designate different areas of your wet palette for different shades of the color that you're using. Now I'm introducing water to this mix because for the glaze that I'm going to be applying to the character's face, I want to simply tint the skin. I don't want to cover up what I already have. So I'm adding water drop by drop to get what I want. Now that we have the color that we want, I'm going to adjust the skin slightly because in some places I find the skin is just a little too red. So I'm going to apply this glaze that I've made over some of the areas, the lower areas of the face. And as you see, it goes on very thin. It doesn't obscure the work that I've done previously. So I'm not hiding the freckles that I spattered in previously. I'm not hiding any of the redness. I'm just dialing it down a bit. And I'm washing this in or glazing it. Wash really pools, glaze tints. So that's what I'm doing here. And observation really is key to achieving the look that you want if you're trying to achieve a realistic skin color. Take a look at reference photos. They are essential if you're trying to do this. Take a look at reference photos. See how your character's skin really looks. Take a close look at it. You will see colors that maybe you don't notice at first. Around the eyes, you may notice that it's slightly blue in the recesses, under the eyebrow, in the corners of the eyes near the nose. In the bags of the eyes, you may notice grays or blues. So observation is key when you're trying to create realistic skin colors. So I'm just lightening everything here on the lower portion of the face. Again, if you observe people, you'll notice that the redder portions of their face tend to be in the cheeks, in the nose, especially at the tip, the lobes of the ears, the tops of the ears. You will notice a redder color in the forehead and between the eyes. So I'm just lightening the lower portion of this face because I found it was just a little too red for my liking and I wasn't getting the look that I wanted. So once again, the color that I'm using is a very pale light skin color. And this is just a glaze that I'm using to tint the skin but not obscure entirely the colors and effects that I had previously. We want those freckles to still be there. We want some of the redness to still be there, but maybe not as pronounced as it was in some areas. One thing you should do as you're applying these glazes to your character is seal the kit, seal the paint, once you've got the effect that you want. You don't want to go over it with other tones, other skin tones, and obliterate the work that you've already done. You want to safeguard the work that you've done. Many times, I'll stipple the paint in if I find it's too thin, and that will help cover up some of the underlying colors that I have that I may or may not be happy with. I just need to knock them down the tiniest bit. Again, we're not erasing what we've done. We're just toning it down or enhancing it depending on the color that you're using. I always keep, in addition to the paint, I always keep a jar of water nearby so that I can thin when I need to. And I always have Q-tips nearby. The Q-tips that I use, it's up to you what you use, but the Q-tips I use are makeup Q-tips. And the difference between the regular one and the ones that I use is that these have a pointed end. They also have a rounded end. But I like the pointed end because I can go in and just dab and pick up spots of color. And it'll help blend as I dab onto the portrait. So this is lighter than it started out, not by much, but then I wasn't expecting it to change everything about this character. It's just lightening it a little bit, and that's all I was really after. I want those colors that I had previously to remain. I want to see the redness, but maybe not as intense as it was. Just knock it down a tiny bit. Just like that. And now I'm going to seal. So I'm happy with how the nose has turned out. Time now to go to another part of the anatomy. Let's go to the earlobes. And here I'll just brush it on. Same thing with the tops of the ears. You can even just wipe it off with your finger. Leave some of it there. To get into the recesses, if you don't like the way it's looking, and I don't, back to my Q-tip. Now on to the other side. Same approach. Tops of the ears, lobes of the ears, even a little bit of color here. And back to the Q-tip to take away some of the color and help blend some of the color. A little bit of water, soften that. And I'll just wipe it away with my finger. Okay, so that's the nose and the ears. Now the chin, same approach. Put in little dots of color. The chin was already quite red because when I was applying my lighter glaze, I only applied a little bit at the tip of the chin, knowing that I wanted it to remain somewhat red. So dabbing off some of the color. That's not bad. Into the folds here, either side of the nose, we want to darken that. So I'm adding the flesh wash to make it browner as we get into the shadows. Even in the corner of the mouth. And under the mouth, take some of that away. Onto the other side. Again, we're not looking for harsh differences in the color, stark differences in the color. We're really just toning, suggesting the shadow, making it slightly darker than the surrounding tissue. Now, one of the fortunate things about this character is, as I mentioned earlier, he has red hair and a reddish complexion. So I don't really have to do too much apart from the basic skin color that I achieved earlier. Fortunately, the red wash that I let pool as I was applying my blue, yellow, and red washes, the red wash that I let pool has done the lion's share of the work for me. So I'm really just going to accent some of what I may have missed, adding in a little bit of red on the forehead. Leaving the center portion a little pale. Adding in some shadow around the eyes. On the bridge of the nose. Accenting the wrinkles on the forehead. And then whatever you don't like, you can absorb or dab away using your Q-tip. Now, I quite like the way this is turning out. Time for a little bit of blue and gray around the eyes. Now, the color that I have mixed up is this grayish blue color. Now, I achieve that by using my basic skin color, adding a little bit of blue, watering it down, and this is the grayish blue color that I'm now going to use in the recesses of the eyes. So in the corner of the eye, under the eyelid, under the eyebrow rather, and maybe just a little bit in the bags of the eye. Again, take a look in the mirror, see where you see the colors around your own eye, and see if you don't notice that the skin there is slightly bluish, slightly brownish, depending on your complexion, maybe even a little bit of green. So that's what we're going to do here now on this character. Again, we're not looking for massive changes, nothing that is going to stand out and be very noticeable. We're just looking to tint the skin slightly so that at a glance, you recognize it as a natural color. Taking away some of the excess because, again, we don't want blue eyeshadow on our character. That's not what we're looking for. We're looking for a darker color in the recesses of his eyes. All of this will look a lot more natural once the hair color is in, the eyebrows are in, we have lashes around the eyes, and we have the eye color itself. Much of what you're seeing now may look odd and out of place, but you have to imagine what it will look like once all the colors are in, once we have completed the portrait, once the hair is in. The hair will make a tremendous difference in the way this character looks. Some of this comes with experience. Some of this comes with observation. And there's no harm in experimenting. As many people have said, it's just paint. If you don't like the way it looks, paint over it. It's very simple. Many times, painting a character, I've either made a mistake or I don't like the effect that I've achieved, even if I've done it properly. And so I'll just start over. That happens more often than I'd care to admit. So that's really all I think I'm going to do on this character. I might add a little bit of brown to the ears just to deepen them a little bit. Just on the inside of the ear. Darker flesh wash. Wipe away some of the excess. Instead of having an orange interior or a rust interior, I'll make it slightly darker so that it doesn't look out of place. And let's not forget the nostrils. If anybody looks at an odd angle at your kit, they'll wonder why you didn't paint inside the nostrils. So, inside the nostrils we go. Don't want him to look like he has a bloody nose. And of course, the last thing we're going to do now is the lips. For the lips, I'm going to go back to my original flesh color and just make it a little redder than it was take a look at your own lips. Most people, especially if they're not wearing makeup, will have lips that blend very easily into their face. They will not be noticeable. So that's what we're going to do here on Karl Kolchak. And again, take a look at your references. Completely different if you're doing a female character especially, or a male character who may have very dark lips. Most of the light-skinned characters that you're going to paint will have slightly redder lips, or lips that are slightly redder than the surrounding flesh is probably the best way to explain it. You don't want stark contrast, then it will really stand out. I'm going to go a little darker. I'm actually going to add a little bit of blue to the flesh to make it very dark. By adding blue, you get a grayish color. If you muddy up the paint, you will get brown, as I just did on the lips. So I'll just remove that. Go back to my original lip color. And you can even use a white pencil at the very edges. Again, take a look at anybody's lips. Take a look in the mirror. You'll notice that where the lip meets the skin at the mouth, the skin here at the very edge of the lip is slightly lighter. So you can use a white pencil, crayon, a white coloring pencil, and just rub that very slightly along the edge, upper and lower. And you'll have a more natural looking appearance. So that's the way Kolchak looks for now. The next thing that I have to do is the eyes, the hair, including the eyebrows, and the character will be complete. Then, of course, the hat will have to be done. Some people have asked me how I recreated the pinstriping on Kolchak's jacket, and I'll say it was tedious but not terribly challenging. It just involved laying down strip after strip of a very thin masking tape, just 0.4 millimeters wide. I initially painted the jacket white, laid the masking tape down, and then sprayed the darker color. If I had done it the other way around, painting white over the darker color, it would have been much more challenging. Once the masking tape was pulled off, the result was almost complete, and it required only some minor touch-ups. And that's a wrap on Karl Kolchak. I hope you've enjoyed the video, maybe even picked up a tip or two. Thanks for watching.